Welcome to the Elements of Success podcast, where we explore specific traits that break down barriers between you and success. We do this by bringing on guests so that they can share their stories of success. Today, we're joined by my co-host, Eric Johnson, along with a very special guest, and I think she needs no introduction. Everyone that knows me knows her because she is my counterpart, my significant other, the one and only Borah Dawson. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited you're here. Borah, I have been following your story, I would say religiously, but not religiously. You know what I mean? It's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey. I'm following you on TikTok. I'm following Johnny on TikTok. You probably don't know it because the face on TikTok is a bull mastiff. But I've enjoyed just watching every step of this progress. And you're amazing. You're amazing.
It doesn't feel amazing, but thank you very much.
Well, today on our episode, this is going to be a two-part series because I think to truly share what Borah's accomplished and overcome, we need more than 20 to 30 minutes to do that. So we're going to do a part one, part two of this series. And the first word that we want to dive into, Borah and I have been talking about this all week. What is one word that could define how she's overcome a major brain operation, recovered at the rate she has? And that word is perseverance. The definition of perseverance is to continue in the course of action, even in the face of difficulty, with little or no prospect of success. And before I let her share her story of really the perseverance that's needed to get over this hurdle, I want to kind of take a step back because, in all honesty, since she's been an adult, she's had to persevere. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Yeah. To give you the backstory on Borah, so when I met Borah, I was coming out of the Marine Corps, attending Ohio State, and really worked on a third shift printing press job through college and went into one of our local watering holes, we would call it, and Borah happened to be the bartender behind the bar. And I thought at that moment she was probably the most attractive woman I've ever seen, and I've been all over the world, so that really set the tone for her and I's relationship at that moment. And one thing that attracted me the most about who she was at the time she already had a son named Aiden, who is my stepson. And he's a freshman in high school now. When I met him, he was 4?
He was 5.
5 years old? Yeah. And to give you an idea of perseverance, we're talking about a single mother who was raising a son on her own. And the statistics of being a teen mom is pretty astonishing. In fact, 52% of all mothers who are on welfare today that live in poverty, they had their first child as a teenager. And just to persevere with being a single mom and raising a child for the first 4 years of his life without a partnership and a companion is pretty phenomenal in itself. And as most people know, my mom, for a duration of my brother's life and I, was a single mom too. And I really admired how she was a mother first before she was even a person that I knew her. And if you fast forward a decade later, since her and I met, she's currently a business owner of a children's play cafe called Tree of Life Play Cafe. So the perseverance of being a single mom, she's used that to get through that difficult situation and leveraged it into entrepreneurship and created an amazing establishment for children to come to. And not only that, this year is no secret that being in the restaurant business in 2020 is probably one of the worst years in history to own a restaurant. The governor of the state of Ohio shut us down in the springtime where we had no traffic, no one coming, and traffic really isn't coming right now either. I mean, there's still a lot of fear out there due to COVID, and what she's done is been able to, even having brain surgery, put people in the cafe that she trusts, and they've been able to operate that cafe while she's been able to lead them through this situation. So her and the word perseverance to me are hand in hand. Her perseverance as a person, as a mother, as a business owner, and now as a survivor of a brain tumor has been honestly phenomenal to watch as her husband and her spouse. With that, her brain surgery that most people know about now, we found out about it 4 years ago. Kind of the backstory on that is we went to a concert. She had an earache. After the concert, she thought maybe that she had ruptured her eardrum or something to that effect, and she went to an ENT doctor. They called us in. Anytime that there's an appointment scheduled for a Thursday and they call you on a Tuesday and say you guys need to come in 2 days early, that's a bad sign. Doctors just don't normally do that. So we go in the ENT doctor, and they said, well, we don't know what's going on with the ear that you're having problems with right now, but by the way, from this MRI we did, you have a brain tumor on the opposite side of your head. And we've always been under the assumption that we wouldn't have to do anything with this for 10 years or so from now, right?
Right.
And when we went to the hospital this year, just for a routine checkup, I actually had to sit outside on FaceTime as a surgeon came in and basically told her that she needs to have brain operation this summer. And that was probably the hardest thing that I've gone through, to not be in the same room with news that is as impactful as that is to our family and who she is as a person. And when you were told about this surgery that we had to have, what did you feel in that moment?
I think for me in that moment was that paralyzing fear. We were under an assumption that we had a long time and we were just doing this yearly checkup just to monitor. And so when we found out it grew and then we had to take action, it was very paralyzing. I was very fearful.
Mm-hmm. Going through the process leading up to surgery, right? So now, we get told, hey, we're going to have the surgery scheduled. They actually wanted to schedule it in September, and we pushed them to move it up sooner. What were some of the feelings that you have? I mean, did you feel defeated before the surgery even happened? Were you starting to build confidence of, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I know on the other side I'm going to be better for it? What, leading up to that surgery, what was some of the feelings that you had?
I think in all honesty, when someone goes through something so life-changing, there's a lot of different emotions that happen. So it's really processing how that feels and what, it looks different every day. And, you and I decided that we would focus on our family through July and really focus on the surgery in August. So I really didn't think about it or worry about it until August 1 hit, and then it was time to really make plans and put things into place for surgery and for recovery. And we really didn't know what recovery was going to look like. Brain surgery is so intense that each patient is different. So I was really fearful. I was worried. My biggest concerns were I was going to be deaf or have facial paralysis or have major complications from the surgery. And I think having you and having our support system really rally around me before surgery really changed my mindset. It really gave me hope that I could get through it. And if I didn't have a good day, I had that support system. So again, it was a range of emotions. I felt defeated at first, and then I allowed those close to me to really support me. And then it really gave me the confidence that I can do this. And on the days that I might not be able to do it, there are people that are going to lift me up. So it just really changed daily almost.
Johnny, if you don't mind, I want to jump in here real quick and ask a question. Borah, I've been following your story. I've been amazed by this. But one of the things that I kept thinking about, and that's because I'm a father and now I'm a grandfather, is you've got 4 boys. How did that cross your mind when it came to when the surgery was going to happen? I did not know about, possibly being able to wait 10 years for this. And then all of a sudden you had to do this a lot quicker than you thought. What was going through your mind as far as the boys and how to help them through this time?
So when we first found out about the tumor, we hadn't found out we were pregnant with our fourth son yet. We had been trying for a year to get pregnant with our son Aurelius.
Wow.
And probably 3 weeks before we found out we were pregnant with him, we found out I had this tumor. So at that moment, when you find out about that tumor, we had asked the first surgeon, we saw 3 different doctors in 3 different hospital systems just to make sure we were getting the best opinion. And we had asked, one of the questions we asked, is it okay to keep trying to have a baby? We didn't know at the time we were already pregnant, but, they said yes. And so at that moment, I was worried about, will I have to have surgery soon? How will I care for a newborn? And luckily, it was a huge blessing at that time that we were able to catch it early while it was still small, and I could focus on being a mom. So it never really crossed my mind that I would still be raising babies and kids and now teenagers, through recovery. I thought it would be 2 separate events. So when we found out that I would have to have surgery this summer, all of those feelings came rushing back that I had that moment I found out, how am I going to be a mom? How am I going to focus on recovering? And I think the most important thing was having faith in God and trusting his process in it, but also having a partner who completely 1,000% committed to me. He was able to take time off work. He focused on me 100%. And he really took my role as a mom, his role as a dad, and became a caregiver. So I knew going into it that I had a partner that I 100% could rely on and really just focus on healing myself. Now, that being said, I was worried about the kids and how they would respond and seeing me in a state of unable to care for myself. And that I'm still working through.
Yeah.
But seeing the boys really get back to themselves and enjoying life. I had a conference with one of my kids' teachers, and they recognized that things must be better at home because, one of our sons is back to being their smiley, happy, carefree self. And I think for me, that was probably the hardest thing to hear, that physically and mentally and emotionally, my kids, there was a toll that was taken on them. But now it just shows that my kids can persevere too, right? They can go through something hard and still be who they are.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Any test that we go through makes us stronger on the other side. And to have to learn that at a young age is tough, I think, as a parent to watch them. But knowing and having that faith that, this test or this time is going to make them a stronger person, that's the blessing on the other side, for sure. Yeah.
So, Borah, that all of those are great points. I think the boys really struggled a lot with even trying to comprehend what this even meant, right? It's one thing to say, hey, I've got to go in for a surgery to do this and do that, but something as significant as a brain surgery where we don't even know conjugatively what's the other side of this even look like. And I think as parents, Borah and I talked a lot about, do we even share what we're about to go through with people that are in our circle, right? We were on the fence of, do we tell social media that we're getting ready to go through this? And what it came down to is we really enjoyed the idea of having more support than less support. As society, we all try to bottle in the things that we go through. If you run into someone at church in the lobby or even in the store and you're like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, oh, we're good. Everything's great. Michael's doing well in sports or whatever the case may be. Well, how many times have someone said that kind of sleight of mouth without really saying, you know what, I do need some support. I do need some help. And that's what it came down to with her and I deciding to share this story. And on the next episode, we're going to get a lot into what that is kind of meant and what it's now become. But I think her confidence going through this surgery with the amount of prayers and everything that has happened has really opened our eyes to life isn't meant to just go at it alone. It's meant to go at it together. And whatever circle that may be for you, open your heart to let other people in to help you with supporting a storm that you're going through. And I also think I've come to the conclusion that a church necessarily, and I've told Borah this, and we've prayed about it a lot, a church necessarily isn't the building you go to. It's not built in the four walls, the sermon or the worship music that maybe you're accustomed to on a weekly basis. A church is really compromised of the people that you connect with and relate to on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. It's the circle that you keep is the church you built. And this has honestly tested our faith. It's really tested our perseverance in life itself. And I think that's been a huge blessing. And Borah, developed facial paralysis, which was her number one fear. And I'm going to let her speak to this. But tell us a little bit about 1 week out from the surgery. You wake up, and that day, I noticed some things were off. Her face was twitching a lot, and she had like this weird jerking motion with her head. Tell me about that day, how you felt, and really what you believe kind of helped get over that hurdle.
Well, as a 32-year-old woman, I think I was devastated that half my face was not working. That morning, you're right, I woke up, and I hadn't really had any outside visitors to the house at that point. After surgery, there's a lot of anesthesia and a lot of medications. I mean, I was taking 7 different medicines, 5 times a day. Johnny was administering those to me because I was just so out of it. I do remember waking up that morning feeling off. I was brushing my teeth and my lips were not really responding. I could move my mouth, but it was a little off. And so, Johnny was brushing his teeth too. And he's like, I kind of see it. We'll just watch it. And a couple of my girlfriends had come over and they climbed into bed with me, and we were just talking and really just praying and just talking about the process. And this weird tick started, and I was the right side of my body started jerking. And at that moment, my friend had asked to pray for me, and so she did, and my other friend's crying. And at that moment, I realized something was really wrong because my friends could see it, and they were trying their best to hide it from me. And, during that prayer, I was like, okay, something's going on. So, Johnny has a friend who is a neurosurgeon, and he kind of reached out and was like, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? And immediately he said, if this is a neurological change, you need to talk to your team and you probably need to be seen. So we called my surgeon's office, and they recommended that we go to the emergency room. And so at that point, the jerking was really intense. Half my face wasn't moving at all. I couldn't blink. I'm drooling out of the right side of my mouth. And I was scared. Beyond the facial paralysis, I was scared. I'm like, okay, what's happening? Is this going to be a long-term problem? There was a lot of different things going through my mind. And when we got to Ohio State Wexner Medical Center, there was a line of people. Every room was packed. They immediately brought me back. I was in a CT scan within, 10 minutes of arriving. It was really scary. And, within the first hour of us being there, they mentioned I had a brain bleed and, I might have to go back into surgery. And so at that moment, everything starts flashing, before you're like, okay, so I have to have another surgery. And what happens if they can't control it? Is this the last time I'm looking at my husband? It's really intense. And when it comes to your health, there are certain things that are out of our control. And I think in those moments is where I grew closest to God, and just the conversations I had with him while I was waiting, and knowing, and those 2 friends who had visited me, even though they knew because of COVID they couldn't see me, they sat outside that hospital for hours and prayed for me. Hours.
That's amazing.
Really phenomenal. Yeah, I think a few times throughout your life you get the opportunity to really see the presence and the hand of God, and when you're going through that moment, you're kind of like, okay, I'm just asking for a prayer, I'm asking for a favor. And I truly believe that her friends that came that evening and prayed outside the hospital had some impact on our situation, what was happening in that moment. For the doctors to come in and say, hey, okay, we've got to prep you for surgery, and then 45 minutes later walk back in and say, oh, nope, everything's fine. I mean, that's a miracle in itself. And I really agree that perseverance, but also having faith and trusting that everything's going to be okay in the end is really what has led to not only a recovery that we're going to get further into the next episode, but I think it allowed you to have the confidence going into this before you even knew you had the confidence to do it. And with everything that's happened to you, and not just with the surgery, but business-wise, single mom, all of that, right? What's probably some pearls of wisdom that you would tell others that maybe they're facing a major surgery and they don't know, maybe they're a mom of 4 boys or 4 girls, and they're the nucleus of that family like you are ours? What would you tell them to encourage them to keep going and have confidence?
Well, I think something that I learned through this was don't judge your recovery process or your success of your business or, what you're comparing yourself to on a daily basis. And I think that you really helped me figure this out. Success isn't a straight line up, right? There are good days and there are bad days. And that's with recovery, that's with raising kids, that's with starting businesses. Not every day is promised to be easy. And I feel like when you're in it, so, week 2, facial paralysis, and I still wasn't walking on my own, and I couldn't really shower on my own. It was hard to see the progress I had made until I was on week 4, and I still wasn't seeing the progress. And you put week 1, 2, 3, and 4 next to each other, and you see this monumental step forward, right? And the everyday you don't feel it. So you have to judge your success and your progress not on small increments. You have to look at the picture as a whole. And even today, I had rehab today, and I have simple rehab tests like rolling over in bed with my eyes closed. It seems simple enough, but it's hard. And even though I didn't make much progress from last week, she reminded me 3 weeks ago I was in a walker, So I think it's really important that you don't judge your progress or your success based on that every day. It's too small of an increment. You have to go week by week or 1 month versus month 2. My 1 month mark was a lot different than my 2 month mark. And so it's just giving yourself grace. And if you have that bad day, it's okay to feel it. Let yourself feel it, but move on from it. And I think that that's probably been the biggest thing that I have learned. And I wish I would have learned it 5 years ago when we started this business, because I took those bad days to heart. And there were days you saw that I couldn't get out of bed when I was sad because of something a customer said or did to me. But, those are what really push you forward in success, right?
Right. No, I agree to that. And really what she's referring to is what a customer said or did. So kind of funny story is Borah sent me this video of the security camera one time, and it was probably a kid who was 10 to 12 years old, I would think, and he was upset that he couldn't go upstairs to where the younger kids play at. And this child was holding a 16-ounce root beer filled to the brim that Borah just, poured for him, and he launched it right in their face from about a foot away. And I remember that day, and she really did feel defeated. We've had more defeats, I think, of feelings with that business than we have successes. And honestly, why? A lot of people say, well, why do you keep it? Why do you keep doing the business thing? Your wife just had brain surgery. Does she really want to be involved? And honestly, every time we try to walk away from it or do something different with that business, she has a moment where her child is so happy, or she has a moment where she provides coats to kids who need them in the community, or has a speech pathologist come in and do a free lesson to the parents and to the children that need it. And what matters in life, there's 2 things that really matter, and it's how you grow from life experiences and what you give back to life. And I would say through her entrepreneurial mindset and perseverance, again, going back to this topic of perseverance, she has fulfilled both of those life aspects of really growing significantly through life experiences and honestly giving back to the fullest of her ability, not only to our 4 children, because they are extremely blessed to have her as a mother, but also to the community and all of those that know her as well. And I just think that it's amazing to be a part of that and to have a spouse that is so trusted in her faith, and with everything that's happened over the course of the past few years, to keep that mindset of positivity and growth is excellent. Eric, again, it's wonderful having you on as a co-host. Are there any final thoughts or anything that you want to say or questions for Borah while we've got her on this first episode?
Well, Borah, I know that you're coming back for another episode, so I'm not going to ask any more questions, but I do want to say I've been blessed. I've been blessed by hearing your message. There is a young man in our community, a close friend of one of our friends' children, and so we going to all the sporting events. We know who they are, and he has a tumor, and it's the prognosis is not as good as yours, and he's 9 years old, and so that's hit home. But I've been listening and watching you for a while, and drawing some strength off of your journey, and praying for him, and hoping the best for him and his family. But just to have it hit closer here made me appreciate you more. And just hearing your story and the encouragement that you're giving to others, and the fact that you're still on mission with your business, I think is phenomenal. So thank you again for being here, and I really look forward to part 2.
Thank you so much for your encouragement and your kind words. And Johnny and I will make sure to pray for this young boy. I can't imagine being a child experiencing a tumor. So being someone that experienced it, and I did have a good prognosis. So we will definitely pray for him. But thank you very much for having me.
Of course.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that Borah and I have discussed is we don't know how we would have handled it if it would have been one of the boys. It was,
Can't imagine.
it's always when it's your situation, you say to yourself, I'm glad it's me and not them. And I feel the same way with her. I would have always preferred it be me go through it instead of her. But witnessing what she's capable of doing is really incredible. So stay tuned for the next episode. This is Johnny Dawson just saying thank you for tuning in to the Elements of Success today. If you have not subscribed, click the subscribe now button below. That way, as we produce new episodes, you'll get an alert on your listening device, and you'll be able to tune in immediately as it pops up. And again, this is just me reminding you, as you go through your elements of success, you're not alone, and we're all in this together. Thank you again. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and we'll talk to you again here soon.